Welcome back. The Associated Press had an article about the Nationalist Front and some KKK groups who have merged into larger groups. The article mentions some shit about these dumbass groups, but I won't bore you with the details. What's important to keep in mind is that these people are actual racists. They proclaim white supremacy and wear it like a badge of honor. They don't go around in the shadows hiding. The point I want to make is that this is what white supremacy actually looks like. So if you want to actually fight a Nazi, that would probably be the first place to look. If, however, you instead want to go for the low-hanging fruit so you can act all tough without actually having to back it up, then you can just do what some local nut jobs did in Portland, Oregon, and go after plain old Republicans. That's right, not skinheads, not the KKK, not white nationalists, but plain old Republicans. And it would seem that the whole reason behind it is their despise for Donald Trump. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of Trump either, but that doesn't mean his supporters are all racists. I don't think it's racist to not like Hillary Clinton, nor do I think it's racist to have conservative economic values. It seems once again to be an attack on those with different political opinions and nothing more. And since I live in Portland, I actually know some of the Multnomah County Republicans, some of which are family and friends of mine, some of which even voted for Obama. How fascist of them! The Avenue of Roses Parade is the first event in the Rose Festival, which is a yearly occurrence with several parades, concerts, fairs, and other events like that. The parade was scheduled for Saturday, April 29th, but has been canceled due to threats of violence. The email reads, "We'll have 200 or more people rush into the parades in the middle and drag and push those people out, as we will not give an inch to groups who espouse hate towards LGBT immigrants, people of color, and others." But as I previously mentioned, the threats were targeted at the Multnomah County Republican Party. That isn't to say that some of the people might have been racist, but that doesn't give anyone the right to threaten violence, especially when you consider that this was a family event. It was a parade, after all. There would have been a lot of children everywhere. I can't imagine how this would have turned out had things gotten violent, but my guess is that would have been heartbreaking. And it wouldn't have been the fault of the Republicans who were just planning to march in the parade, like they have been doing for many years now. It would have been the fault of those who started it, which seems to be the act of self-proclaimed anarchists. A lot of people have been labeling them antifa, which seems fitting to me, but I haven't found any official thing that proves that connection. It's also been pointed out that this could have been a false flag created by some or one of the Republicans to get sympathy, or just some troll unaffiliated with either side that just wanted to cause trouble. While this is plausible, I don't see any reason that it couldn't have been Antifa either. The email was sent from a Rise.net account, which happens to be what Portland Antifa uses, but that doesn't prove anything. However, it does tell us that if this was a false flag event, then they did their research and planned ahead more than I would expect someone with such a childish mentality to do. But that probably says more about me and my expectations of other people than it does about the facts of the event. However, the fact is that even if we could talk to someone inside Antifa and they tried to assure us that it wasn't them, that only tells us that it wasn't them individually. They can't really reassure us that it wasn't some other member of Antifa. The reason for that being that Antifa has no real organizational structure. So if one lone person makes a claim about the group, they could only have gotten that information from asking other members of the group who could have lied. So even if we talk to members of Antifa, that doesn't mean some of the other members weren't the ones who did it. And with no real game plan, there's little reason to think that it couldn't have just been a few individual members who didn't run it by the rest of the group. It's not like there's a leader that we can talk to who might actually hold their members accountable. Imagine walking into a Walmart and asking a part-time employee information about the company's core business objectives. You probably won't get anywhere. But if you ask the CEO, I'm sure they'd have plenty to say on the matter. But Antifa doesn't have a leader like that. So without some sort of organizational structure, there isn't anyone keeping track of what the individual members are doing. But I don't want to unfairly villainize this group as being the same thing that we saw in Berkley, however, because Portland Antifa doesn't seem to be the same level of insanity as the group known as By Any Means Necessary, which was the group responsible for Berkley. However, those who wish to cause violence and break property are not people I would consider my allies. That's not the end of the story, though. According to a local paper called the Willamette Week, there were actually supposed to be far-right agitators planning on attending the parade. Not to march in, but to crash the event. By which I mean crash the counter-protest, not crash the parade itself. So they weren't just going to show up out of the blue, they were going to show up to support the rights of those who simply wanted to march in a family parade as they have done for many years before, who themselves are just local people with different political views than the majority of those in their community. In other words, had threats not been made to the Multnomah County Republican Party, then this would have been the same old parade that happens every year. But because threats of violence were made, the word spread and people looking for a fight found their next target. This is just my speculation at this point, but I don't think this was a false flag. I think this was an attempt at a power play. And in a way, I guess it worked. I think the person or people responsible for the threat are cowards. And deep down inside, I think they know it. So rather than looking for a fight with actual neo-Nazis or far-right extremists, they pick a fight with innocent, mostly benign families who simply have a different political opinion. And the rest was basically those cowards getting lucky. The threats attracted the exact people they claimed to be opposing, which means they were the reason those people would have been there to begin with. But then they used that to justify their own horrible conduct. They ended up creating a self-fulfilling prophecy that let them point the finger and say, "Look at these fascists, we were right all along." And had those people shown up, I think it would have been much like what happened in Berkeley, but I think it would have been far worse. It wouldn't have been about free speech anymore, it would have been about safety and protecting families, and that means neutralizing the threat as quickly as possible, which means no holding back. And furthermore, I think it would have ended in a lot more non-Republicans taking the sides of the Republicans, although I guess this did happen to some extent in Berkeley too. But anyways, if the protest was peaceful until a bunch of people in all black showed up and started attacking people in the view of innocent children, the parents of those children would know exactly who the real problem is. And this isn't me sitting here arguing for pacifism. I mean, I didn't want this parade to turn into a violent brawl, but not because I don't like violence. As much as I don't like to admit it, watching the Berkeley fight was pretty entertaining in a way. But this would have been different. It wouldn't have been a political rally turned bloody, it would have been a parade, a family event turned bloody. And for me, that would have been too much. So in a way, I guess it's a good thing that they canceled the parade to make sure some terrible fight didn't break out. But at the same time, we can't let threats dictate everything we do, and we shouldn't bow down to terrorists. So I'm also kind of disappointed that the parade was canceled. I mean, we could have just made it an adult-only event and had all the children stay home. And then it could have turned bloody, and it wouldn't have been so bad. But then again, I would kind of like it if we didn't have Nazis and communists fighting in the streets. Maybe one day. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy my work, you can subscribe to my channel, and if you like this video, please rate it and share it everywhere. You can also follow me on social media, and thanks for watching. See you next time.